Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and I will look for a motion to approve our agenda. Greg?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we approve the agenda in front of us with the change. I'd like to have items 5B, 1 and 2 reversed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so a motion from Greg, second from Namal. Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposition? Please say yes. Okay, moving on. And that brings us to the recognition of audience. At this time, the board will hear comments from the public. We ask that each speaker who has signed up to address the board state their name and home school district for the record. Speakers must refrain from using this forum to criticize or complain about a specific employee or student by name. Vulgar or profane language will not be tolerated. The board is interested in your comments and will listen carefully, but is not obligated to respond to or debate issues in this forum. This evening, one speaker has signed up to address the board. Each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. Upon conclusion of the allotted time, a chime will sound and the speaker is asked to conclude. If necessary, a final chime will sound 15 seconds later, signifying the end of the speaker's time at the podium. And now I will call up our speaker, Devin Dolney.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Devin Dolney. My child is part of Fargo Public Schools, attends Carl Ben. Consistent exposure to music, like learning to play a musical instrument, strengthens a particular set of academic and social emotional skills that are essential to learning. In ways that are unmatched by other pursuits like athletics, for instance, learning music powerfully reinforces language skills, builds and improves reading ability, and strengthens memory and attention. Music education can also enhance children's skills and abilities outside of music. The following benefits of music education illustrate some of the ways children are impacted. Study after study proves that regardless of socioeconomic background, music-making students do better in school than those who have no music involvement. Music education helps students develop spatial intelligence, which refers to the ability to visualize elements that go together. Students use these to solve math, art, engineering, and computer problems. The benefits of music education extend to a number of other outcomes. One study found that students in the arts were more cooperative with teachers and peers, more self-confident, and better able to express their ideas. Several national studies report that students at risk of dropping out cite participation in the arts for reasons for staying. Finally, the U.S. representatives reported that students who participate in school band or orchestra have the lowest levels of current and lifelong use of alcohol, tobacco, and illicit drugs among any group in society. Now, you're probably asking yourself how any of this relates to the topic at hand. Well, it is because it is in sectionals and small groups that most of these benefits occur. While playing in a large group does have some of these effects, it is in sectionals where students actually learn the skills needed to play their instruments, understand music and music theory, and so much more. This is in contrast to playing in a large group where students mainly learn to play a piece of music together rather than the instrument itself. And that is why I'm here to plead for sectionals to remain in our schools for the benefit of our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, and at this time, we will move to the report section. And so Ms. Haugen Christensen, you're here, right? Okay, you are up.
Okay. Somehow the year slid past early in the year, and now we're smack dab in it. Smack dab. Words matter. We've completed in the secondaries and elementaries lots and lots of classroom assessments as well as NDA plus assessments. And I know you've seen quite a bit of data in one of your handouts for tonight. So data. We've wrapped up this week, elementary parent-teacher conferences. 2 weeks ago, we were doing high school conferences. That's where I was. There have been so many regular committee meetings of various sizes. Safety Committee and HC Advisory Committee is working, and a lot of smaller committees containing, 2 or 3 of the above. And when I was putting my notes together, I realized I referred to regular meetings, lots of voices, which is a really good sign that I'm calling them regular meetings and not frequent or incessant. It's a really good sign also that it's a strong conversation and collaboration, regardless of what the agenda is. It definitely feels like everybody is working together. And that's what keeps them from being incessant, maybe, is because we're making progress all the time. Finally, FEA just finished a fundraiser last week, raising donations for scholarships we award in the spring. So if you saw us last week walking around in sweatpants, that was a fundraiser. So we're back to our proper outfits now this week. That's what I've got.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we will move to strategic plan reflections from Dr. Gandhi.
Thank you. In your board packet, you have the strategic plan reflections for this month, so I think we'll kind of stand for questions. I did want to just kind of acknowledge, I know we're going to have this conversation at governance and recognize as well, kind of like we shared last year, our process of going through kind of developing the strategic plan, the unified strategic plan that we did was last year in that February, March timeframe. We asked all of the departments to set their measures for this school year that would then drive our budget and so forth. We knew at that time that taking on this alignment process is going to be an iterative process where we're going to learn different pieces along the way. We did set a goal at that time that whatever measures we identify should be quantifiable SMART goals by July 1st. However, there's been some issues with data platforms or other pieces. So that is why, like this first year, we know that there's going to be some measures that have changed, or we just realize that we can't collect the data in the way that we could. So I know that that's a conversation that's going to happen at governance. I did want to recognize that. So I know there's a nutrition services measure that's called out specifically in this month's strategic plan reflection about something that we thought that we are going to collect data, but when we really started looking at it the right way, it's probably not the best measure to drive our work forward. So those are some of the reasons that this first year we have some of these measures that have changed. It is not us trying to reset the goalposts at the on the board at all. So please let us know. Like, we are very happy to have that conversation. Going into next year, our goal would be to continue consolidating some of these measures and start identifying what are those most wildly important goals for the school district and for the board as we move forward. So you have the strategic plan reflections in your packet, and myself or anyone from our team will stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Greg?
I actually have a question about what you just mentioned. So people at home can follow along. It's on page 19 of the strategic reflection document at the very bottom paragraph. So the measure has it mentions on the second sentence, be measured by monthly comparisons, but it also at the first sentence references the whole year, and I was wondering if it would be possible to, if not monthly, would it be possible to keep that measure as kind of like a, let's look at it for the entire year?
To clarify, Greg, are you asking specifically about the measure on food cost targets within a variance of 5%? That one?
Yeah, that one.
I just wanted to clarify which measure it was, but I might see if Bill has the answer. If not, we may have to get it from Cindy for you.
Yeah, we could do an assessment at the end of the year. I did do a look back when we didn't have this as a measure, and it was 10% at the end of the year. At the beginning of this year, it was 5%, and in talking with Cindy Hoganson, that was probably more of a fortunate coincidence than something they were directly monitoring. But yes, we can.
Yeah, so I think this may be a good example of something that I don't have a concern with the new measure. I'm not like, oh man, I really, really liked that first measure. I think it's more about kind of as you alluded to, Dr. Gandhi, like changing things that the board had voted on and approved, what, 10 months ago? I mean, last March. And so it's part of a larger conversation, but I think for this particular one, you know, maybe it could be modified or to just look at a year instead of, if we can't do it month by month for whatever reason, if we can look at it as a year in order, as a way to kind of preserve the measure as originally envisioned. I would have preferred to have done that. With the new measure, it seems materially different than what the original measure was, and that's where my concern would be.
Greg, I think that's fair, and I don't know if we have an avenue to have kind of these conversations outside of this, which is what I'm hoping gets fleshed out at governance too, whether it's the district advisory committee or one of the board committees where we can say, hey, like, here's some of the challenges that we're seeing with the measure, bring in the appropriate representatives from the strategic initiative team since we're following that structure as well. So I think, I don't want to speak off on behalf of our strategic initiative 5 team or Cindy, but I think good feedback. I don't think we're opposed to your recommendation of switching it to the annual or something that's more closer to what the original measure was as well. So I think we'll take that feedback and bring it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have other questions or comments? Okay, let's move on to the grant opportunities and revenues report.
That too was provided in your packet, and I know Jackie is here and happy to answer any questions.
Oh, got it.
I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
So when we're looking at the federal grant funding, Jackie, what do we expect it to be in FY25? Because I know that in the report it said that we expect it to be going down. What is that looking like, and what does that mean for some of the programs that those grants are funding today?
The majority of that decrease in funding that's projected was ESSER funding, so we've kind of taken care of all that. I believe most of the federal programs were constant, if not a small increase for the other ones that we receive. So I'm not expecting any drastic changes to any programming. We have figured that out as we built the budget originally.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Robin?
I have a list of comments and questions. I want to first shout out to Stacy Collier and Jackie. Stacy, hello, Stacy. Thank you for your work on this. This is part of my world, and I want to emphasize that applying for a grant is one small piece of the whole process. You also need to, write the grants, implement them, track them, and report them, and that really makes up the majority of the work, regardless of whether they are funded up front or reimbursable. So thank you. On page 2, I noticed that the entitlement grants, and I want to make sure everybody's aware, even though they are listed under North Dakota DPI, I want to emphasize that most of those are federal dollars that come down through the NDDPI that are meted out to different school districts, and sometimes that messes me up, and so I thought for people that don't live in that world, I think that needs to be restated. Those are not state funds. And then one of my questions on page 9, which talks about collaborative grants, which is also part of my world. On SEEK, they talk about 21st century Community Learning Center funds, and that's something that my organization uses, and I am also on the SEEK board. This is going to be changing at the top of that page in 2026. This grant, the federal rules coming down no longer allow for indirect costs. And so SEEK used to administer those grants for a consortium of community-based organizations. So we'll see some likely changes in that. That also affects some things in the previous report you saw about affordable childcare. And so this is going to be kind of sticky, but since I'm the SEEK representative and also use this grant, I will keep you posted because that will come across in our legislative priority document as well. So overall, thank you for your work. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes. Oftentimes we hear, can't we just apply for grants for that? And it's much more complicated than what it seems on the surface.
Okay, thank you. Do we have other questions or comments? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for doing all this work, like what Robin said, and then also for putting together this memo for us so we can understand it better. From there, we are now ready. I'm ready for a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion from Melissa and a second from Nikki for the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposition, same sign? Okay, that motion passes. And now we are on to business, and item A is the RS1 tiered instruction monitoring, memo number 45, and that comes to us also from Dr. Gandhi, but I see other people approaching the podium.
Yeah.
We're ready for you.
I will just hand it. Now approaching the podium are our three lovely doctors that are in charge of our standards-based instruction, Dr. Hansen, Dr. Jonas, and Dr. DeFanzo.
Thank you for having us. We do appreciate the time to really go through Strategic Initiative 1. It is a pretty comprehensive initiative in terms of 34 measures. And so really trying to wrap our minds around the 34 measures and then how we communicate that out. I do want to, before we start kind of this brief overview and then take questions, really give a shout out, one, to these two fine ladies. It's been a pleasure working with them within standards-based instruction, but our coordinators, our facilitators, and our teachers. So, you know, if we think about standards-based instruction, it is around the work that happens in the classrooms. If we're not doing the work, we better be supporting the work. And our teachers have done amazing jobs as we have shifted some of these measurements to be very specific. And as we go into buildings, we really hear it. And so it's that narrative that may not show up in a paper, in a document, but when we go see schools for school support visits, when we do our learning visits around visiting classrooms, we see this work happening. And it's been tremendous to really see it. So it's a pleasure to be here. We'll do a brief presentation and then really open it up for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Hansen. Thank you to the board, Superintendent Gandhi. We've been working together so much, we started to dress alike. We didn't even plan this. So that's cool. And that makes it really fun to know that you're in sync with your colleagues. But I have the great pleasure to start with the end in mind, which is Choice Ready. Very excited for the results of Fargo Public Schools. As you can see by the report, there's a tremendous growth just over the last 3 years in Fargo Public Schools, and our essential skills are at 98%. We have students at 75% for our overall Choice Ready. Post-secondary is a little more challenging because of GPA, but our strands, when we look at workforce ready and life skills, have gone up as well. So I think it's just a true testament, as Dr. Hansen has said, back to our principals that are in the classrooms. But I really want to give a shout out to Mr. Andy Dolan and Stephen DeRoe, who created the dashboard that allowed us to look at all of the indicators, that allowed people to dig deeper into what indicators needed more focus. And so moving forward, that's just really an area. When we started with Choice Ready, it was really about maybe the senior exit and are we Choice Ready? And we took a strategy during ESSER to identify a program manager to start looking at the rolling plan at 8th grade, looking at ninth grade and having the conversations, are students on track throughout the high school experience, not just at the end when it's too late to do anything about it. And so that work will continue. In the report, you notice that there was some opportunity to look at what's 9 to 12, what that metric, and what 11 and are 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. I think we're still trying to flush that out, just as you were talking about metrics earlier. What is that real good way to measure, and how do we collect the data? But what we really wanted to look at was, our students in the freshman year taking courses on track? They should complete 6 classes, right? 6 credits. At their sophomore year, what does that look like? And if we can catch at that earlier, we'll have more likelihood to keep those students in school, on track, and toward choice ready. Very cool. Beyond that is scholarships, $1.5 million in families' pockets, if they use that in the state of North Dakota. So I think those are amazing accomplishments. And then beyond is just the idea that the growth is happening, indicators can be monitored, it's in the hands of families, students are engaged, and then beyond that is just, where do we compete or compare? We always are in competition, whether it's a sporting event or academics, right? And so how do we compare across the state? And just because of the work that Fargo Public Schools has started, it has turned into a regional event and a state influence. And so I'm very proud of the work that's happening. So that's just a snapshot. And I will step aside because there's much to talk about, and then we can ask any questions later.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Gandhi. This is my first opportunity to present to the board of Fargo Public Schools. My name is Shelby DeFonso, and I'm the Director of Special Education for our district. About a year and a half ago, Dr. Gandhi and Dr. Gross walked into my office and said that they would like to move forward with some shifts within our district. And the big shift was that they would like to move the Department of Special Education into our standards-based instruction department. And that was something that really talked to my soul. This is my 23rd year in education, all of which have been in the area of special education. And I believe that high-quality instructional opportunities is the fundamental right for each one of our students, including our students who are identified with IEPs. And so I've had the opportunity to work with these two gals. This morning I did put my blue suit back in the closet, but I would like to note that I have blue in my suit jacket as well. It has been a great honor and pleasure to ensure that all students have access to high-quality instructional programming, including some of our most vulnerable learners who are identified on individual education plans. So as we move forward, you will definitely see that found within each measure is, how are we ensuring all students have access? When we look at some of our academic accomplishments over the course of the last year, it has been identified throughout our measures and our reports. Dr. Hansen, is there anything that's particular you would like to say?
Yeah, I think we wanted to pull out just a few academic accomplishments, and really with our ELA, continuing to work with our new standards that have been set, and in elementary, a new curriculum that will be coming next year. But really looking at that advance, we wanted to pull out that has seen an increase. Math across the board continues to increase in most grade levels. Really pleased with where we're going with that. And then super excited about our multilingual learners. We saw a jump of a 51% increase in the number of multilingual learners classified on track. And if you ever get into the document, the accountability report, our schools get points, and one of those point areas is multilingual learners. And so we've really taken a concentrated effort to make sure that what can we do to support each of our learners, as Shelby has spoken to, but making sure that students that come in that have a second language or a third language receive the supports and academics needed, one, to learn English, but two, to really be access Tier 1 instruction. And so really pleased with that. And then as you would look into the report, we also saw gains with, if you look at Standard 6, some of our populations that we've identified as having some major gaps, we've seen increases in those. 2%, 3%, but still increases. Now, we still have some persistent gaps, and we're not shy about really working on those. But what we do see is that gap closing, and really pleased with that. This one was just a highlight because it is such a big growth from last year to this year. And really kudos to the teachers, to our facilitator that's really taken some strategic work on this. But as you look at Standard 6, it's really pulling out, and multilingual learners being part of Standard 6, looking at, we have closed the gap in many ways, and there's still a ways to go, but pleased with those pieces.
As we look at accomplishments found within the area of special education, I chose to highlight two very specific measures within our strategic plan. One being increasing the amount of students who are accessing the general education setting, considered from an IEP standpoint as LREA, so looking at that least restrictive environment. That goes hand in hand with the second measure that is in our strategic plan around increased graduation rates for students in that four-year cohort who are identified with IEPs. And so you can see that we have seen some increases in both of those areas. I'm really excited just to continue to see where we are going to continue and how are we continuing to serve our students in both graduation rates as well as ensuring students have access to that least restrictive environment, or they're spending more than 80% of their time within that general education setting. Additionally, a change that we have experienced this year within the department is that we transitioned from TINET, which is the special education paperwork management system, to a new system called EdPlan. That system is new. We just implemented it this fall. We are currently in the process of that transition from TINET to EdPlan. So right now, still working in both systems, but it's really exciting to look at a new system. We are the first district within the state of North Dakota to move forward and moved out of TINET. This system will allow us to continue to track how are students progressing, both within their goals, as well as ensuring that we are compliant with IEPs and paperwork management. Within the area of special education, our district, as all the other districts in the state of North Dakota, as all other districts within the nation, are measured with very specific indicators. Within the state of North Dakota, we have 17 indicators that are measured as comparable to state targets. And those 17 indicators are then reported out through what is called a level of determination report card. This report card really drives how is our district doing as it relates to other districts in our state, comparable to state targets or thresholds. Most recently, last April, Fargo Public Schools was notified that we are classified as needs assistance on our level of determination report card. And that's what drove deciding what are those measures or what are those indicators from that level of determination report card that would be embedded within our strategic plan. We have seen areas of success, and those areas include ensuring that students are at a rate comparable to their general education peers around suspension. We saw increases in preschool transition, as well as addressing disproportionate representation of specific demographics and disability categories. So those are areas of success for us.
And really quickly, as we look at Strategic Initiative 1, it's really around when we look at choice-ready graduation, students that have IEPs, special education department, it's really looking at then a multi-tiered system of supports. So really looking at tiered instruction and ensuring that each student receives access to that tier 1. And then how do we support students as they need different supports for their learning. We've used EduClimber for the last few years and really working on how do we use that to make sure that teachers, principals are looking at the data and having data-driven decisions. And then a collaborative approach. We do have 5 buildings in our district that are a PLC pilot program. It was fully optional, but something where we're providing a little additional support in terms of how we're using data-driven decision-making, MTSS, and really enhancing teacher collaboration, because we know that if we look at research, how do we increase teacher efficacy? How do we increase their knowledge, one, of their practice, but then of each other and trusting of each other? And part of it is that collaborative approach. So that really encompasses Strategic Initiative 1. We do have future focus areas, and I think both Denise and Shelby have spoken to those. We have a 5-year literacy plan that we're really, I would say, in year 4. And as we've really looked at targeted systematic literacy instruction, and then in the same breath almost, the state then updated their literacy standards, K-12. And so adjusting to those and knowing and in looking at the data as well, as we have 90 teachers in our district pioneering a new literacy curriculum that really aligns with our standards, aligns with systematic instruction around literacy, knowing that next year we have full adoption to really then streamline how we meet those standards with a tier 1 curriculum. So really working on that. I know within math instruction, our middle schools are doing tremendous work around collaborative thinking classrooms. Is that correct? Yep. I got the name right. And I know that we've had trainers out this week around how do we get students up and moving, up and talking about math instruction. And it's been tremendous and really excited as we move forward with that. We'll continue to support multilingual learners' growth. We've seen significant growth, but we can continue to support that. We've been in a process to refine MTSS implementation. And part of MTSS, as we look at it, it really sits in between educational justice and standards-based instruction. So we both hold it. And then how are we, one, looking at instruction for each student, but then supporting the instruction for students. So continuing to refine that, building a strong program for each building around MTSS. And then Choice Ready. I don't know if you have any additions to talk about Choice Ready. Sorry.
I would have to say that the one thing to think about Choice Ready, even though it's the end in mind, it starts with all the work that happened, K-8. So those essential skills and all of the work that leads up to a student being ready to have those choices and those options for that high school experience. And so even though we talk about Choice Ready as a senior, it's really a K-12 experience. And so I think I just want to end with that for Choice Ready.
So we took 34 measures, right? We made a 37-page report, but and then created an 8-page presentation. I know, you guys like that. So did we hit everything, every detail, minute detail from the report? We didn't, but we are happy to answer questions. I know Dr. Gross and Missy will also be supportive of those as well as they can, but the three of us are here to answer questions, talk more about, as you can see, we're all passionate about instruction and our areas and how they overlap with each other.
To start the conversation, I'd like to make a motion to accept that reasonable progress has been made on I'm always going to mess this up, RSI-1 for the 24-25 school year.
Second. Okay, so we have a motion from Robin and a second from Nikki, and now it's time for discussion. Robin?
Thank you. You mentioned the literacy pilot. How does that align with the state-directed science of reading?
So it directly relates. So we have chosen CKLA, so Common Knowledge Language Acquisition. So it's a skills-based program. So it's really targeting the skills that those standards that I would say science of reading, but that explicit instruction around literacy really targets. And so it's directly aligned to those standards. And so what we've been able to do is looking at those new standards that the state has adopted. We've aligned, it's been wonderful work that we've really looked at common formative assessments. And then what does that look like with CKLA? So we have 90 teachers adopting it, or pioneering it, this year and getting their feedback. So we just had sessions with K2 and 3-5 last week and really hearing their feedback. What's going well? What do we need more of? What do we need less of? And I think a big theme is we've had Haggerty and UFly, which is very systematic approach to phonics. And those skills that we're seeing, we have data that shows our kids need that support. And so we've done some overlap with two of those. And that could be a recommendation as we move to full adoption, is really looking at how does UFly fit with Tier 1 instruction, specifically in K2. And because we have really positive comments overall from 3-5, it's really content-based. And if we do any research around instruction and literacy, we do want to teach content and the knowledge piece, that's and the vocabulary. And we're loving a lot of the themes that are coming out from this new curriculum to really dive deep. We had one principal in a school support visit. He's like, yeah, I was in a lesson of CKLA and I didn't want to leave. It was so exciting. And maybe not always do we have that in a literacy lesson, but it's really been engaging. And the company has been really great to work with, listening to our feedback. And some of the themes that just aren't appropriate, taking those out and thinking what else would work for Fargo.
And I don't know a lot about the science of reading, so what I'm hearing, that is not a curriculum, those are standards, and then you're building the curriculum
Yeah, so if
around
we
it?
think about science of reading, it's really around an instructional approach.
Okay.
So it's around really targeted. So the science of reading has 5 pillars of what we want to focus literacy instruction on. And so it's taking those pillars, and the state then has made standards based on that.
That
Yeah.
clears up a lot for me, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Nikki?
More of a comment than anything. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and I love to see the numbers going the right direction. Thank you.
Greg?
Yeah, I have a question for some clarification on one of the graphs in our memo. It's on page 5 of the memo. Towards the bottom, it's the last graph on that page. The title of that graph is On Track Graduation. It shows for seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, side by side, the 23-24 school year, and then semester 1 of this school year. And for seniors, juniors, and sophomores, there's an average, let's call it 9 percentage point decrease in on-track graduation. And I'm wondering if I should be as concerned about that precipitous drop-off from one semester from last year, or if there might be, maybe there's missing data because we haven't gotten too far in this year, or why, we went from having everyone over 90% on track to graduate to everybody but freshmen below 90% on track to graduate.
Right. I see Dr. Gross shaking his head. So, but I also, I think the one thing about the information is right now the freshmen are 100% on track this semester because they haven't completed any coursework. And so as we go through that, just is where we're going to start, is everyone's on track right now. And hopefully that happens at the end of semester 1. What we do know is there is some loss of credits that can happen the freshman year and the sophomore year. So definitely say that we are monitoring that because we want that to stay on track. But now we have a way to go in and look at the course completion for what is expected to be the graduation coursework and the requirements, and monitor to keep that on track. And I think this is the first bar graph that we've had that's allowed us to show that, that first of all, the progress we're making. And so I think if you're thinking about that freshman year, and then our sophomores this year right now are at 83%, is that what you're talking, that difference, and why there's a dip in that graph?
Well, I was thinking sophomores from last year were 91% on track.
On track, right.
And
this
then
year they're
sophomores this year
are 83% on track, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Gross, I see he has his hand up, so I'm just gonna, go ahead. Yeah.
So as we looked at this data, one is at the end of the school year, so we have the entire school year. The other is just as of right now in semester 1. So as we look at this data, counselors are having the conversations with students of what other opportunities there are to catch students up. If that is through some of our credit recovery programs we have in our school, if that is through our summer school programs in which we have hundreds of students taking opportunities there, or even our new Empower Ed program that's in all 3 of our comprehensive high schools, providing multiple ways for students who aren't quite acquiring the right amount of credits each and every year to catch up as they go. So really having the data right now and seeing that some of our students aren't there, are starting those conversations, enhancing those conversations with our students on what other opportunities are there as you look at second semester, credit recovery, and then summer school.
Go ahead, Dr. Gandhi.
And the only other thing I'll add is that I think you traditionally, at least just from my experience, even when I was a high school administrator, will always see a difference between the on-track graduation rate at the end of semester 1 and at the end of semester 2. From a master scheduling perspective, I think the biggest reason for that is trailer courses. We don't offer trailer courses semester 1. So the definition for on-track graduation is what the rate at which you're on track to get 6 credits a year at the high school. So based on how many students may not be successful in, let's say, English 1A the first semester, we will offer a trailer class second semester where we offer English 1A, and then the students can take English 1B too. So in an 8-period day, you can get that class. We don't offer that during the first semester. So that picks up a lot of the students to increase that on-track graduation rate. And then the second piece I would say is that all 3 of our comprehensive high schools are offering Empower Ed this year. I know for sure one of our high schools, our largest high school, is going to offer it as a potential credit opportunity to recoup credits that students didn't attain. So knowing that opportunity was available this fall, we probably had less students opt into summer school for credit recovery because they were going to take Empower Ed for that reason this fall as well.
Yeah, I think that's the power behind the observing the data, is finding it early so that we can have conversations earlier than we have in the past to look at a multiple approach to interventions or supports or choices to fill that gap. And so I think that's where we're at in our first use of the grad progress report is right this year.
Allie?
I just was going to piggyback on Greg's question. I guess since this is the first time we're seeing some of these charts or datas presented in certain ways, just making sure that they're legible and like understanding what's behind those numbers. So if we could just maybe add a couple footnotes or something like that in the future to help with that. My questions, I guess, if moving on is like the percentages don't necessarily match. I'll just use page 8. It says, 45%, I'm just the first one because I couldn't find any of the numbers to match, but like the green and the red on the sides there, I was like, I was not understanding where those numbers were coming from. Because if you look at, 45% of our students have met the standards. Previous year was 44%. That's an increase, but it's not an increase of 2%. It's an increase of 1%. So I just was wondering where the percentages were coming from. And they weren't matching. And like I said, I couldn't find any of them to match. So does that make sense where I'm asking, or?
Turned it off. Did you move on to standard 2?
No, I'm just looking in terms of the graphical representation. So like some of the graphs have data points in them and some of them don't match is what I guess I was getting to. So I piggybacking off what Greg had said, making sure that when we're presented these graphs that we can easily understand them and what the numbers are representative of.
Sure.
I believe the graph that Allie referenced is in standard 2 though.
Yeah, and that's
this year to this year, it doesn't go up or down.
Yep, and for standard 2, there weren't graphs for standard 2 because we had the baseline data around ELOs. Yeah, and so we can continue to be clear, and I think as we have more data then, as we look at those ELOs and skills at the secondary level, we can continue to, I think, parse out that data and then be more specific with you. I will, with standard 2 specifically, that is baseline data that we just had 1 year. Sometimes for secondary, we had last year as well. If that makes sense? Or am I?
Leanne, can I just ask, where did you take these charts
Oh,
from?
those charts.
Yeah.
Those are from Insight. And so those are from the state.
Okay, so like these numbers don't match the difference between those two numbers.
Right.
So I'm wondering where they're coming from, I guess. But that,
Okay.
So you guys didn't build those charts.
Correct. Yep, so we pulled those from Insights, and I think those charts really look at, so the bottom half is Fargo, the top half is North Dakota, and really looking at the the bottom quarter of, if we look at Fargo, it looks at, did we show growth? And so we want green in that one that we're showing growth. And the top half of Fargo then shows, did we see an increase in advanced and proficient? Yes, but we can continue to be more clear on those graphs, where they come from and what they mean. Absolutely.
Okay, other questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much. Oh, okay, Greg.
I cracked the code for.
Oh, you
what
cracked the code?
issue is.
Okay.
It's a percent change from the previous year. So
Yes.
that graph, that 2.1, that's a 2.1% increase of 44.19. I use that formula a lot at work.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you so much for all of this hard work and for answering our questions and putting this together for
Thank
us.
you
I
all.
really appreciate it. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I think we're ready for the roll call vote.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Wollenberger,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes, the motion passes. Okay, we are now going on to Business B, the North High School Weight Room Donation, Memo 46. And I believe, Greg, is this coming from you?
Yeah, this is coming through planning.
Through planning. Okay, thanks.
So we had a donor generously offer to make a large donation in excess. It's over 25,000, so that's why it's coming to the board instead of for admin to approve. And so they want to donate approximately $130,000 worth of equipment for North High School's weight room. And the planning committee, more or less, we said, we're willing to accept that donation, of course, as long as it more or less conforms to the standards that FPS has as far as what equipment, and making sure it's safe and appropriate, and all the wonderful stuff that you would suspect that FPS wants in their weight equipment. And so if the board were to approve it, it would be still, those donations would be subject to working with admin to make sure that they are appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
With that, I would move that the Fargo Board of Education authorize the acceptance of equipment for the North High School weight room, so long as the donor meets all criteria and follows the processes identified by administration.
I will second that.
Okay, so we have a motion from Greg and a second from Robin. Do we have any discussion or questions?
Just a thank you to this donor. This is a phenomenal gift, and I'm sure the students will be very appreciative.
Other questions or comments? No? Okay, I think we're ready for the roll call.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Wollenberger,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes, motion passes 9-0. And that takes us to business item C, the request to reopen negotiations. And this comes to us from the Negotiations Committee. Chair Berkland.
Yes, thank you. So as set forth in your memo number 48, the negotiated agreement that we have with the FEA contemplates reopening negotiations for very discrete topics. And we we have had an issue for the past several years, is my understanding, that although the negotiated agreement sets forth that we will have a leave bank, it establishes how many days are in that leave bank. It sets forth that there should be a committee and comprised of certain individuals for the leave bank. It doesn't have any parameters for the leave bank, and this can cause a lot of, I think, confusion and lack of clarity for how the leave bank should go, the committee should go about approving or denying them. So this was brought to our committee last week, and after we discussed it, we thought it would be appropriate to reopen our negotiations so that we, as a board and the FEA, could determine what those parameters might be so that there's clarity moving forward for how the leave bank operates. So with that, I would move that we authorize the reopening of the negotiations between the board and the FEA for the sole purpose of negotiating the terms of Article 15, Section D, Paragraph 1 of the agreement.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Melissa and seconded by Nikki. Do we have any questions or discussion? Greg?
I'd like to declare a conflict of interest pursuant to North Dakota Century Code 15.1-07-17.
Jason?
I also have the same conflict.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? Yes, Dr. Gandhi.
I just want to say thank you to Laura from the FEA and the FEA in general. I think this has kind of been one of the just vague practices that we've been wanting to solidify for some time, and just having to be able to work in real time and not have to wait for a 2-year cycle just allows us to be more responsive to meet the needs of our staff. So thank you to the FEA for taking on that piece as well.
Yeah, and as somebody who has served on that committee last year and this year, I'm also very appreciative that we can have this conversation since this topic apparently comes up repeatedly. So I think it's time to address it. Other questions or comments? Okay, let's do the roll call.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Holenberger,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Christensen, Meinier.
Yes. That motion passes 7-0. Okay, thank you. We are now ready for our board reports. So how about I start, Namal, can we start with you?
Sure. I don't have anything to report currently. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Namal. Allie?
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Jason?
Nothing significant to report.
Nikki?
Thank you. October 9th, I attended the bonus brunch and learn through the North Dakota School Boards Association. October 14th, in my board liaison position, I attended the Indigenous Peoples Day breakfast. It was an honor to be there. October 17th, we had negotiations. October 18th, we met as the CEA committee, and we will be meeting again shortly. We're covering all the same topics, working with Confluence and all that we have going with the long-term plan there. And then October 21st was governance.
Okay, thank you very much. Robin?
Sure, thank you. Having just got off the airplane, I forgot my notes at my office, so I will follow up with a written report about my delightful visit to Madison, my liaison school. Had a wonderful, insightful visit with Principal Conmee. And as I always say, what is it, the one thing that you want the school board to know? And she said the relationships that we are allowed to have by having such small class sizes. And keep in mind, their class sizes are 12 to 14, but it makes a lot of sense. And I got to tour the whole school. A particular note, there were a lot of paras, the para to teacher program. I think there were like 3, and that seemed pretty incredible to me. But again, I will follow up when I get back to my notes tomorrow. From a governmental affairs committee perspective, we are just finalizing our legislative priorities that we will bring to the board for your approval. And then lastly, GAC related, I have been, there's a school meals coalition forming again, and I have been asked to serve on that. That will be part of our legislative priorities document as well. So, and then there's a policy committee meeting on that, so it will come back again. We will not give up. How's that? Thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Robin. Greg?
I think the only thing I have to report would be that I got the wonderful opportunity to volunteer at the book fair at Hawthorne Elementary last night. I
You can decline.
volunteered.
Melissa?
Yeah, so I am our health insurance committee liaison, and we meet the third Tuesday of every month, and we met last Tuesday. And so I just want to summarize some of the things that we talked about because I learned a lot from the committee meeting. First, our insurance provider gave kind of a synopsis of year to date what our insurance bank looks like. I did not know this, but the school directly pays claims, and so we have to make sure that we're solvent. We're at a 94% rate for our medical insurance claims, so running right on track, but we are over for dental. So we've paid out more dental claims than we have money coming in. So I just, it's just something that I didn't know that this was how it operates. So I think it's important for all of us to know that. We also went over some of the new voluntary insurance that the district's going to be offering. It's very comprehensive and impressive. It's accident insurance, critical illness, hospital indemnity, legal insurance, minus criminal claims. So just FYI to any employees, and pet insurance. So I thought that was great. And although the board is not, unless you're married to a teacher, not allowed to have insurance through the district, open enrollment is November 1st. And so for all employees, make sure that you're watching your emails, and there's going to be information sessions. But if there aren't, if you aren't able to attend an information session, they're going to be recorded too. So anyways, I'm excited to serve on that committee this year. So that was that. For negotiations, we really covered through our business the largest item that we discussed, which was reopening discussions for the leave bank. But then we're also starting our brainstorming and fact gathering process. During our last season, it came up quite frequently that we needed information to make decisions about how to respond to and create proposals. And so my hope is that if we're information gathering from the get-go, we're going to be well equipped and more ready to have those conversations faster. And then on a somber note, I just want to acknowledge that our community lost a giant last Friday. Steve Stark passed away. And I just want to take a time to recognize what an immeasurable impact this person had on our schools. He was Mr. History for our elementary schools. He was a middle school theater teacher, and for 30 years he designed posters and sets for Fargo South High. So please keep the Stark family in your thoughts because he was very special.
Thank you, Melissa. Thanks. Kristen.
Yeah, I was asked to attend an intro to education class and speak to seniors about what it is to be a board member and its impact on education. So that was really fun. They had a ton of really great questions for me, and they all came from all 3 high schools. So that was neat. Let's see. The Fargo Youth Initiative is my liaison organization. It serves as an advisory board to the city commission. They are having their impact event next week. It's on the 29th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and invites high schoolers from the area to come and listen to speakers. And then there's going to be a whole session inviting local leaders, city commissioners, and folks to engage with these students and hear directly from them on what's important. So I'll be attending that session that afternoon, but I'll email you all the flyers so you all have it. It's going to be really, really fun, and they're very excited about it. There's a lot on their minds. I was able to attend the Fargo, a department chair meeting at Fargo South on Monday. And so I just listened in on their meeting to see, what they're addressing, things that they're going on. They talked a lot about EBR, PLC planning, things like that. It was really interesting. We're going to continue our conversation and as they keep going through that process. And then I'm a member of the Discovery PTA, and we had a PTA meeting last night. Was really interested by the presentation from the Dean of Students, Jacob Kenzel. He's new to our district this year, and he is really utilizing the code of conduct within the entire school in various ways, but along with restorative practice, he has some great sessions with all of their kids in the advisory time that are called circles. So they get to just kind of share and, talk about things that are personal to them. And it's really bringing about some organic conversations that were shared at our PTA meeting last night to reinforce the work that he's already done in 2 months of school. So we are going to have another meeting. I'm going to hook up with him so I can hear more because I know that's a big part of our strategic plan, some of those data sets. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. For my president's report, I can share that since we've met last, I have had one-on-ones with both Laura Christensen and Dr. Gandhi. On October 21st, we had our governance committee meeting, and at that meeting, we did finalize a date for a policy training session or policy governance training session, and that will take place on November 12th after our regular board meeting right here. And then also share that Clara Barton Hawthorne is one of my liaison schools, and so on October 17th, I also volunteered at the book fair at Hawthorne. And then this morning, I started out my day very early with a lot of fifth graders at 7 a.m. At orchestra at Clara Barton. So I was very impressed with how many people were there that early in the morning and very, very engaged with the music, especially because they've only been doing it for a couple months now because they just started. So it was really quite impressive. And then also I was able to observe a special ed teacher at Clara Barton who was just really wonderful, working with some students on assisting with reading and writing. I met with a counselor for a little while on the curriculum that they use. And then the highlight of my day, I'm a former Spanish teacher, if you didn't know that, was I got to sit in on an ML lesson. And the teacher and the student just connected so much, and they just both clearly really loved each other and enjoyed each other. And it was just really heartwarming to get to be there. So I'm really grateful for that. And just a friendly reminder that we're all going to Bismarck together, and we are planning to have dinner there for the conference. And there might be some get to know you activities during dinner. So you might want to think of things like, 2 facts and a lie about yourself, or fun facts, or something like that. So just giving you a little heads up, a little homework before that event. Also, our next meeting then, I'll affirm that, is November 12th, because we have 5 Thursdays in this month. Or Tuesdays. There's actually an extra week in there between meetings than what we normally have. So next meeting is November 12th, and it is now 6:33, and this meeting is adjourned.